let's just head over to Theater 2, why don't we? See what's happening over in that particular place. Oh my, this movie. Well, we have Air Force One over in Theater 2 from 1997, starring Harry Ford. I'm sure that people call him Harry, right? Harry Ford. Um,
Indy or
Gary
Han
Oldman.
Solo.
So this movie stars Harry and Gary,
Scary
right?
Gary.
And Glenn Close, Wendy Crewson, and William H. Macy. Directed by Wolfgang Peterson.
Can we just talk
Yeah.
for a second about how awesome William H. Macy is, please?
Yeah.
Like,
He's
am I
pretty
the
good at
only one?
everything.
Because I really do enjoy William H. Macy, even in
He's
this.
usually good in bad movies. Like
Yeah.
he's the best part of Mystery Men too. That's not a good
Uh,
movie, but he's hilarious as the shoveler. I
Yeah.
shovel well. I shovel very well. You
Hank
shovel great,
the
honey,
Azaria
but
heart of
that
featured
doesn't
Mystery.
in
make you a
Mystery
How do you?
Men.
superhero. And he's just
How
like,
dare you say Mystery Men's not a good movie? That's such a
because
heartfelt
it
movie. It's
isn't.
wonderful. No, it's not. It's a great film.
uh,
Got
oh,
the bowler. Got the guy that can only be naked if nobody looks at him, or only be invisible when nobody looks at him, but he has to be naked to be
yeah.
invisible.
I can go visible, but only if nobody's watching. That's a hilarious gag. Yeah, I like that. Um, there's good gags in that movie too, but he's the best part of it, and it's generally not a great movie. Anyway, this movie also not a great movie in my
No,
opinion. I had
God,
never
no.
seen
No,
this
it is
movie
not.
before.
Oh,
This is like a
Oh
really bad
wow!
remake of a movie that came out like 2 years before it, Executive Decision. This is like a really bad Executive Decision. You remember Executive Decision, Mike Henry,
Wow!
with
Executive Decision is a
Kurt Russell?
terrible, terrible movie. Yeah, when they fly the
It's
Skull
but
Fighter
it's
up
better than
under.
this.
It is not. This is Die Hard in the sky.
No, it is. It actually was like critically acclaimed as being the Die Hard on a plane. If anything, this
This is
film
an
was the
awful movie.
last of the Die Hard style movies that had come out after Die Hard.
Yes,
This movie
very
was so
much.
iconic at the time. I remember seeing it, and as I was watching this film, I'm like, I remember this fucking movie from beginning to end. This is one of the few movies in my brain that I can actually remember from like scene to scene, beginning to end, everything that pretty
It's a
much
really
happens.
good bad movie, and Harrison
No,
Ford
it's
has
not.
said himself that Gary Oldman in this movie is his favorite like antithesis. It's his favorite, enemy character.
Yeah,
They
he's
play
his favorite
very well
actor he's ever
together.
worked with. They
I don't
played
know. It
so
was kind of
well.
like a waste of Gary Oldman. I have a lot of problems with this
No,
movie.
it
I
wasn't a
was
waste of
expecting to
Gary
like it
Oldman.
more. And I felt like I was justified because as a kid, I saw this trailer. It would come up a lot, and I'd see the poster and stuff. And all those things made me want to not watch this movie.
It
And
wasn't a waste of
now I'm
Gary
glad.
Oldman. Here's why it wasn't a waste of Gary Oldman. Because Gary Oldman played such a good generic Russian or Eastern Euro terrorist bad guy that I had
Generic.
completely forgotten that Gary Oldman was in this movie until we went to rewatch it, and I was like, "Wait, Gary Oldman's in this movie?
You know what's funny you say
How?"
that? Funny you say that because growing up, I had seen Gary Oldman in a million things. Obviously, The Fifth Element, like lots of things.
Didn't realize that was Gary Oldman
Dracula.
for four
None of them.
watches of that
Like I
film.
was an adult, like I was probably 30 before I even knew who Gary Oldman was. I'm like, why do I always hear this name Gary Oldman? People are always like, oh, Gary Oldman's the best actor. I'm like, well, how comes I haven't seen him in anything? I'm like, I had in a ton of things. He's just like he slips into the roles so well. Oh, absolutely. But that's the problem about this character he plays is it's just so generic. There's nothing memorable. There's nothing memorable about this movie at all. Trying to come up with a favorite scene
Oh,
was almost impossible for me.
oof. There's nothing
This is a
memorable. Did you
no,
even
I
watch
was
until the end when Harrison Ford puts that rope around Gary Oldman's neck with the
the
Asian
action
on it and
scenes were
says,
quite bad
"Get
in
off
this
my
movie.
My
plane."
Like this was
plane.
like an action movie with not an action star
Are
and
you
not
Not
kidding
an
me?
action star.
No.
Indiana Jones and Han Solo are not
Are
an
you
action
kidding me?
star.
Han Solo's not an action star character. And
I
Indiana Jones is kind of a different thing too. Like as
going
far
to
as like
just
being this like
disconnect from this chat right now.
well, maybe Indiana
Indiana
Jones,
Jones.
but yeah, maybe Indiana Jones. He's better in that for sure. But in this character he's playing is ridiculous. Like this president, like Dave Mader, cousin Dave would love this movie. It's another movie that makes the American president this like fucking superhero. The American
Yeah, it's like
presidents can do
Independence
any.
Day.
I can't
This
wait to
is
see when Joe Biden rips his fucking shirt off and starts like thrashing people.
that's what I'm okay. No, listen.
No,
No, no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
I'm
no,
not
no,
done.
no, no, no,
Because
no, no,
just
no, no, no.
being
Wait,
an
no.
American president
No,
makes
Okay,
you
no, listen.
glorious
okay.
I get
beyond
it.
glory,
JM,
and
I get
all
it.
those movies
But-
suck
but-
ass.
No,
All of
this
them.
movie is so much better if you think about this role. Is like, imagine if this was Joe Biden or Donald Trump in this exact position doing all
It's
of
just-
these things.
That doesn't make it
It
better.
would be
That's dumb.
no. It makes it so much funnier because this is exactly
doesn't.
what goes through probably Trump's head or a lot of Americana's heads, where they're like, my president basically needs to be like Harrison Ford, but they'll never get that because they keep voting guys that are like twice the age of what Harrison Ford was in this movie. He's the perfect American president in like every sense of machoism, and it's hilarious to so many degrees. He's turned up to 10, but he's just like, he just wants to watch his football game and be with his family. Like,
He doesn't. It's
so-
just stupid shit too.
What
that
do you mean,
opening
no, he
scene where
doesn't?
He's just like, we're gonna stop playing nice now, and everyone should be afraid of us. I'm like, you can't. No one would ever fucking say that. Even George W.
Right,
Bush
like,
didn't
yeah.
say anything that
We're
stupid.
not going to ever
Like-
negotiate with terrorists ever again.
Yeah.
Like, every
We will
fucking
not
US
negotiate
president
with
has
terrorists.
had
They
that
literally
line
negotiate with
before.
every terrorist ever.
Well,
like,
look
that's
at
literally
Brittany
what
Griner,
they do.
right?
But
Like,
imagine
they just
how
released
many-
the Lord of
how
War
many
so
Americans
they can
want
have
that to
Brittany
happen.
Griner back in the continental United States. Yes, they negotiate with terrorists.
They know.
Well,
they
according to
negotiate with
Harrison
every
Ford,
terrorist.
they don't. And let's see what this trailer's about before we get into this more.
It's awful.
Tonight I come to you with a pledge to change America's policy. Atrocity and terror are not political weapons, and to those who would use them, your day is over.
In a speech tonight in Moscow, the president issued a direct challenge to terrorist nations
But the
around the
question
world.
remains, what are the risks involved in such a bold policy initiative?
They hated your speech, didn't they?
I'm afraid we won't have the guts to back it up.
Air Force One, clear for takeoff. Thank you for your hospitality, Moscow.
Air Force One with an emergency call. Where's my family?
The president's plane, Air Force One, has been hijacked.
What do they want?
They want General Radek released from prison.
I will execute the hostage every half an hour.
What are our airborne scenarios?
Not a good Russian accent.
Scenarios.
My husband will not negotiate.
His wife, his daughter. I think he'll negotiate.
How the hell did this happen? How the hell did they get Air Force One?
Your national security advisor has been executed.
He just bought you another half hour.
Sir, your parachute.
I'm not leaving without my family. You know who I am? I'm the President of the United States.
Jim isn't making this decision as a president. He's making it as a husband and a father.
Let's not forget this president is a Medal of Honor winner. He knows how to fight.
He has no right to take chances with his life.
We cannot give in to their demands. You've got a job to do.
It makes me so proud, Mr. President, that you stuck with us.
Now faint. You have to faint around the American president
You're nothing like my father.
because he's the president, and it makes you want to faint.
MiGs. I'm sending in our F-15s to protect you.
She said MiGs.
Did Murphy faint?
People die.
Murphy fainted, didn't he? Where did he go?
Do anything to save my family. Don't ask me for something I
Murphy,
too
I thought you
American.
fainted because you saw the American president.
He's so incredibly macho.
Finish this with one phone call.
Forget the leader of a political party. If that doesn't get you jazzed up, I don't know what will. This should have been Justin Trudeau.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
He knows how to box.
And he's really adept at putting on war paint.
Yeah, some paint.
So yeah, Air Force
Yeah.
One, 1997, in the film Air Force One,
Oh, boy.
James Marshall, played by Harrison Ford, along with his family and staff.
James Marshall, what, they couldn't get away with John Rambo?
No, he had to be a marshal. They're at the President's Palace in Kazakhstan, former republic of the USSR. Well, the movie opens up with the former republic of the USSR, and you get these like
yes, those Americans,
U.S.
they fall into Kazakhstan.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a joint operation between like U.S. Secret Service or I guess Marines and like.
Oh, those would be Navy SEALs or Delta Force or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, and then
it can't
whatever.
be the Secret Service. They're too busy catching hackers. Remember, we looked that up.
Yes,
That's what the Secret Service does.
So okay, so it's then it's what Mike said. Navy SEALs and probably the Russian version of Navy SEAls.
Spetsnaz.
Spetsnaz.
Well,
yes, thank you.
Yeah, the modern
Let's
version
go
of Spetsnaz.
Yeah, they're basically pulling off a joint operation while Harrison Ford is delivering a speech to the Russian nationals.
The stupidest speech ever. I mean, other than the one in the American president.
I was going to say,
why do we keep having movies where presidents have terrible speeches?
I was going to say, out of presidential speeches on this show, this is the better one. Look at all these.
No, the only good one is from Lincoln.
It's even worse that like he starts out in like the most stuttering and drunken sounding Russian I've ever heard in my life. And later in the movie, they even make a point to be like, I didn't know you speak Russian. Well, he doesn't. All right. And it's very clear. They should not have even tried. But bless his heart for doing so.
So the American-Russian Special Forces have a successful joint operation where they capture this General Radek, who's I guess he's
a military leader.
He's a dictator of a rogue neo-Soviet regime in Kazakhstan, apparently. However, as everyone's getting aboard this flight, it's obviously going to be taken over by a dangerous turn. It has a dangerous turn. This group of radical loyalists led by Igor Khrushchev, which is played by Gary Oldman. He infiltrates the plane.
It?
Or is it? Yeah.
There's no way to know. There's no way to know.
Well, you get this like who is this guy again?
Who's this guy? The obviously traitor among the bunch.
Dean
like
Stockwell.
they always give this
Stockwell.
character away so early in movies. They just have to show you him being like,
Xander Berkeley, that's right.
Yeah, that's Xander Berkeley.
Yeah, Xander Berkeley plays
Gibbs,
secret agent.
Is he Gibbs?
Gibbs, yeah, Secret Service agent Gibbs. So he's not chasing after hackers. He's here to betray the president.
Gives the bad guys whatever they want.
Oh. So yeah, basically, he sets it off so that the Radix loyalist lead, they basically infiltrate the plane and seize control, killing many security guards. Security personnel go to take the president and his family hostage.
That's crazy, though. That's going to be the easiest way to steal Air Force One ever. Like, they're not looking out for that. Like, you could just knock out the guys that are coming onto the plane and like take their spot. Like,
well, literally,
is it that easy?
He just walks into the Secret Service room and he's like, "Hey guys, here are some reports," and they're like, "Oh, neat reports!" And then he just pulls out a pistol and executes all 3 Secret Service dudes in a row. Like, I'm sorry, but they are carrying weapons and they are very much trained to use them at any time. And he's like, pew, pew,
pop, pop, pop.
Pew.
Yeah,
this movie feels like it was written by a 14-year-old. It's just like so
there's
basic
a lot of
and
suspension
bad.
of disbelief involved in watching this movie.
So yeah, unbeknownst to the hijackers, they managed to like get the plane as it's landing. Now, Mike, you're gonna have to like explain this one a bit. They land. And then they're just like, no, take it over. Pull the plane up, go.
So that means they've got their spoilers deployed and the wings no longer are generating lift. They've got their flaps all the way down, so the speed is lowered. They've got their thrust reversers out, so the airplane is literally fighting itself going forward. And then they proceed to run off of the runway. A fully loaded 747, or in this case, it's a VC-25 because it's technically just a 747 that's super updated to become the presidential aircraft. Fully loaded, running off of the runway and skidding to the side like that towards the camera. That airplane has just sheared off its landing gear and it's not going anywhere. I mean, case in point, there was a cargo 747 that was almost empty that came into Halifax Airport a couple of years ago. They went off the end of the runway and went into the grass. And that airplane was completely totaled, and they had to cut it apart with torches to get rid of it. They couldn't even recover the airframe. It was done. So, I mean, the entire concept of that airplane going off the runway and then just being like, oh, it's fine. We're going to take off on the taxiway over another airplane. I mean, no.
Just add to the things in this movie that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Along with everything else. Dean Stockwell. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dean Stockwell was
another waste.
a treat. Unbeknownst to the hijackers, President Marshall manages to evade the capture and hide in the cargo hold of the plane.
And that guy plays Simon Tarsus on Star Trek TNG.
Which one? The guy in the middle?
Yeah, with the red tie. That's Simon Tarsus.
He
gets
Tarsus?
blamed for being a spy in the Drumhead, even though it's not him.
Oh.
Simon Tarsus.
Interesting. Basically, they get a hold of Claire. They contact Vice President Catherine Bennett, played by Glenn Close, who's wearing a very bad wig in this whole film. Apparently, her hair was too short because she was filming something else and was brought in as a last-minute actor for this role. So she
was
brought
a
her
nothing
own
burger
wig
in this movie.
She was a big nothing burger. She has a big old satellite phone call and informs her of his survival. Marshall does, and with his help of military advisors, including Chief Staff Lloyd Shepard, Dean Stockwell, and Major Caldwell, played by William H. Macy, they devise a plan to trick Khrushchev into taking Air Force One to a lower altitude for mid-air refueling, allowing the hostage to parachute to safety. Now,
Which,
I did
again,
kind of
doesn't make any sense, but that's fine.
Yeah, I did actually briefly went a little past one bit. This was Davan's hold-up scene, where he finds the phone. And the manual.
See, because by the time this happened in this movie, I was already like, I can't believe this is what this movie is. Like, I was already just shaking my head at how bad everything was. And I'm like, I want the rest of this movie to just be him reading that manual. I want us to keep cutting back to him for the next hour, and he's still reading that manual, because that's what would really happen. Like, he would need like an hour to read up how to do this shit instead of like the 5 seconds they have him read this manual power, because he can power read too, because he's the American president. He can do anything.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
That's absolutely right. You should see
They mentioned
Joe Biden's speed
in the
read.
preview there that he won the Medal of Honor, so he could definitely take over this plane. But like in the film, they mentioned, he won the Medal of Honor in Vietnam for being a medevac helicopter pilot.
Yeah, I was like,
I
that
don't know
doesn't
where
translate
hand-to-hand
to
combat comes into that, but
maybe.
I mean, I guess
maybe
this movie makes no
training.
sense. I can't believe it was made. I can't believe
Look,
they
it
made
doesn't
this
need
movie.
to make sense.
Yeah, but
Most
it has to be
movies don't
good.
make sense.
That's not true.
Die Hard doesn't make any sense.
Die Hard's overrated.
Oh, jeez. I mean, every action movie's overrated. If you're gonna look for a real plot, right? You gotta turn off the brain and just accept the kitsch.
I guess so.
Accept the kitsch. Sorry,
it's like folk art.
Exactly. Yeah, you
I really need a
really
Tweety
shitty.
bird that runs in the wind. That's what I need.
Basically, they devise a plan where as the KC-10 tanker docks with Air Force One, Marshall assists in capturing one of the hijackers and escorts the hostages to the cargo hold.
Yeah, the old Lockheed KC-10, where they aerial refuel, and then Air Force One disconnects, so the fuel line comes out of the top of her, and there's a little spark, and the flame rides all the way up to that KC-10 extender and explodes. When in reality, like there's a boom operator on the back of that KC-10, and he's laying down with a big old window, and he's looking at exactly where that flying boom is going. He's directing that fuel boom into the other aircraft, and has an immediate fuel shutoff right beside him, because obviously he does.
Yeah, I thought that too watching it. I'm like, yeah, right. Why would they do that? Like, why would they even risk this if that's what's gonna happen? Um, and the inside of this plane is so huge. I mean, maybe it is, but it's like the fucking Starship Enterprise in there. There's endless rooms to hide in. I'm like, this is an airplane. Just go get
Oh,
him.
yeah.
There's a guy running around in the airplane. You don't want him there. It's an airplane. Go get him. Like
You are
this.
like 8 guys. He's one guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
airplane. Go get him. Like, oh my god, this movie.
They didn't
I'm
want to go
starting to
down the
enjoy
steps.
how
There's only
bad
one
it
entry.
was now just talking to you guys, but watching it, it's dreadful.
It's so good though, and I love how like
No.
out of the 8 Terrys that they have on board, right? And I'm gonna call them Terrys. The pilot. Okay, number one, all of them look so supremely Russian because they are, like the actors are Russian, and they all look just so, just so angry Russian.
So
And the
angry
pilot-
in Russia.
The pilot with like his
Yeah, one of them's the
facial
guy
hair.
who wants Spider-Man's rent,
Right,
in
exactly.
the old
And
Spider-Man
for
movie.
whatever reason, he's the only pilot. They shot the other 2 Air Force One pilots. They shot them to death. And so this guy, as far as the movie is concerned, is the only person on board this aircraft who can fly it. And they continually bring him out of the cockpit and give him a gun to go hunt down the president.
Yeah,
No,
that's what was.
Like,
That's where my joke at the start of this episode came from. There are way more airplanes than there are pilots in these
yeah.
movies tonight. Like airplane, no pilots. This one, no pilots. Next one, guy's not a pilot. There are like no pilots in this airplanes movie review.
Well, and see, that's why we need to be doing the war airplanes movie review.
Well, no, it shows you how they go to write airplane movies. It's like, all right, we want to do an airplane movie. First thing we got to do, get rid of the pilots. Then it gets exciting. It's like
every war airplane movie would disagree.
Yeah, because it's all pew pew.
Don't you
and
tell me
yeah.
that Top Gun Maverick is not about Maverick.
Oh my god, I will never watch Top Gun Maverick. You cannot make me watch Top Gun Maverick.
You're missing out, sir. If you watched Air Force One, if you put yourself through this movie, Top Gun Maverick is actually a legitimately good
Yeah,
film.
Top Gun Maverick is a far better movie than this one is. So yeah.
Do the American flags come pre-soiled?
Yes. So with the president and his family under his control, Khrushchev demands the release of General Radek in exchange for lives. Vice President Bennett is urged by Defense Secretary Walter Dean to declare Marshall incapable under the 25th Amendment to override Radek's release, but she refuses. Marshall eventually breaks free, with Khrushchev resulting in his death. So before we get to that, this was actually Mike's favorite scene that held up for him.
All the prisoners when he's getting released are like, yeah, they're cheering him on.
Yeah, General Radek thinking he's walking home free.
Right on through, he's got an Mi-24 Hind helicopter waiting right there for him. Oh, too bad, sucker.
Gets William Dafoe at the
He's
final
like
moment.
He is being released
10 steps from getting
none
away.
other than Shawshank Prison, by the way.
Yes,
That is the
that's the
exact
same
same
prison.
as Shawshank Redemption.
I love Shawshank.
Well, now you have to, by implication, love Air Force One because it
No, I
shares a similar set. Yeah.
Nope, that's not how it works.
So yeah, we
I use
watched
Vasquez
Radek.
rocks in every movie.
we watch Radek die, basically, and then we get Marshall eventually breaks free and his captors and engages in confrontation with Khrushchev, Gary Oldman character, resulting in his death of Khrushchev, basically telling him to get off of my plane.
Get off my plane.
Oh, that's awful. That was
Get off
awful.
my
That
so
was what I
good.
remembered
Come
from the
on.
trailer. That's the line they, for one, that's like the big line in the movie. They give it away in the trailer, and that was the movie in the trailer that made me not want to watch this movie as a kid. Get off my plane! I was like, oh, that's terrible. No,
That's
terrible.
up there with any 80s to mid 90s action movie. You have to have like at least one really cheesy, like, you know, like an Arnold movie, you know, let off some steam, Benny.
But that's funny and clever. That's just like, get off my plane is literally the most obvious line they could have written for that line. Like the most obvious one. You'll never think of a more obvious one. Fall off my plane maybe is slightly more, but no, this is awful. This is a trash fire, fellas. All right, so
well, we actually get up to, we're not done yet. So
I
we
thought that was the end. He got off his plane.
No, he didn't get off his plane. Actually, he still has another third act to go. Surprisingly, if you didn't notice, there's the whole scene where Marshall and Caldwell manage to pilot the damaged Air Force One back to friendly airspace, accompanied by F-15 fighter jets. However, they're pursued by a second group of Radix loyalists in MiG-29s, and one of the F-15 pilots is going to sacrifice himself. But this leads to my favorite scene right here. This was my favorite scene out of this whole film.
Fuck, I hate this scene. Okay.
You don't, this scene here, you didn't like this scene?
God.
It's all flying, sir.
Just step on the ball.
That's right. Just like riding a bike.
Halo flight, we are cleared to commit bearing 090.
Remember, you're the American president. You can do anything,
These MiGs, how far away are they?
That scene's so
That was
dope.
your
Come
favorite
on.
scene?
That was my favorite scene in this whole movie. Where all the jets just like
F-15s
drop their
tanks.
fuel tanks and
Yeah,
bust
they go
out.
full burner. Yeah,
Like the
it's so
sound
cool.
is dope, the scene's awesome, and the best part is it's practical.
No, oh god, no.
No, it is.
Every
No,
jet
it
scene in
is.
this,
Every
Murphy-
jet scene is practical.
it sure is not. Number one,
It sure
in
is.
In that scene alone, I don't know where you read that, but in that scene alone, they have blue fire coming out of the back of their afterburner.
Okay.
Now,
Hang on.
General Electric
No.
F-110 engine
Oh,
does
schooled
not
by
have
the
out
guy with the airplane mustache.
No. Hang on. It's not all practical, but it is practical. The jets themselves are practical, but they added some effects like the
'Cause they're
blue
models?
flames.
Is that why?
No.
Because, like-
No. Like they're actual flying F-15s.
It is the Enterprise.
So the scene,
it's just a
you're
model.
saying when Air Force One is flying and the MiGs back here, they launch some AA-7 Atoll missiles at Air Force One. Now you're talking.
Oh,
you're
that
talking to someone who
could have.
knows-
No, I'm not
right?
talking
No,
about that
no,
scene.
no,
I'm talking.
And then the F-15 plays all Secret Service, and he's like, "I'm gonna do."
I'm not
what,
talking
like,
about
Secret
that
Service guys
scene.
in movies do, and I'm gonna throw myself in front of the president. But he's flying a fighter plane, so he's like, instead, I'm gonna like, and just fly my jet in front of this missile, as if
That was dumb.
any human brain could comprehend the mathematics involved in putting
Yeah.
your 700 mile an
You
hour jet in front of a Mach 3 missile on an intercept course to another 500 mile an hour jet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Practical effects.
Okay.
They are on the Enterprise. Data
I wasn't
could do
talking
that was
about
Data.
that scene. I'm not saying all of the fucking scenes are practical, but the majority of the scenes that involve jets, there were actual practical jets flying in the sky. Like, right? Like the
Well, it's
obviously
easier to
the
point a
action
camera at a
scenes.
jet than build one out of CGI.
Obviously,
especially
the action
1997.
scenes had some embellishment with models
like to
and
see
special effects.
References you have for that, because
Yep, send the documentation over to Mike Henry
Yeah.
at gmail.com.
That's right. Mr. Pilot here disagrees. I've seen a lot of aerial footage of real jets, and I'm telling you, every single time, I even have it written down in the notes because I take notes for these, and I have it written down in the notes that like every damn scene with a fighter plane, is the most fake thing I've ever seen in my life. They move in the most like serpentine, ridiculously unrealistic
One of
way.
them
They don't
is
look
like
good.
bouncing like this, like
Yeah,
Thunderbirds. It
it's
would look like
all very not good.
like a
That right
marionette,
there,
like
the
Thunderbirds.
Hercules, the MC-130 Hercules, where they're doing that line transfer. The Hercules, that was a real shot for sure. You can tell that's a real airplane flying. But whenever they had fighter planes on the screen or Air Force One, most of the time, case in point being when Air Force One hits the water and does that cartwheel, like worst CGI I've probably ever seen in my
That was
entire
bad.
life. It's laughably bad. It's a PlayStation 1 cutscene, for God's sakes. It's so bad.
When he's standing there in the doorway and it like hits the
Right?
water and he's still standing in the doorway, it's like, what are you talking about? Oh yeah, that was bad.
So the explosion from that like sacrificing jet caused some damage to the Air Force One. So a standby MC-130E aircraft called Liberty 24, operated by the United Special Air Force Special Operations Command, is called in for assistance. The parajumpers are set down on tether lines to rescue the survivors. Marshall insists that his family and the injured shepherd be transferred first. However, it becomes clear that it's only time for one more transfer. In a shocking twist, quote unquote, shocking twist, Gibbs reveals himself as the traitor, killing Caldwell and the last paradrumper. Marshall engages in a final struggle with Gibbs for control of the transfer line, and at the last moment, Marshall detaches the line and is reeled safely by the MC-130E airman. The Air Force One, now inoperable, crashes into the Caspian Sea, killing Gibbs.
It's
With
a practical
Marshall.
effect, Mike.
That's
right.
obviously not a practical effect. Oh my god. I said one scene. I'm trying to say the one scene with jets had practical effects, and you fucking y'all just be taking it out of control.
I'm fairly confident that the only practical effect in this movie was Harrison Ford's wrinkles on his face.
Fair enough. So yeah, with Marshall and his family safely in the MC-130 aircraft, the pilot changes the plane's call sign from Liberty 24 to Air Force One and flies them back to safety. The ordeal comes to the end, and President Marshall's emerged as a hero, having successfully protected his family and the hostage on board Air Force One. Like, this is a practical shot. Just saying.
Yeah. The Hercules probably is. The F-15s probably not.
Yes, they are. But okay.
Do you have any idea how much it costs to operate a fighter jet like that? An F-15 or an F-18, any kind of twin-engine military turbofan fighter jet, burns about 15 gallons of JP4 jet fuel per second. So you're looking at about $10,000 per aircraft per flight hour to film. And you're telling me they put up 6 F-15s, but they couldn't afford to make Air Force One look any better than like a Lego set when it fell into the water? They spent all of their money on putting Air Force jets up in the air for a 10-second shot.
So you're convincing me. Yes, they spent all their money on Air Force jets, and that's why the CGI looked like shit. It all makes sense. Yeah. You've convinced me. Damn it. I'm on Team Murphy now. I mean...
Okay. We got to do something, and then I got some movie morsels for you. Just
storytelling. It's awful. Yeah. It was written by a 12-year-old. It's awful. This is not a movie. At least not a movie plot. Like, there's 10 minutes worth of plot here. He's on a plane. Go catch him. He's on a plane. Anyway. There's so many plot holes and problems. It's just awful.
I mean, it is the ultimate Americana dream machine for what they want a real. If they could have this president, this is the president that America wants, but will never have. But this movie is so hollow, but it can be made all the more entertaining if you can just visualize or picture like Joe Biden doing any.
No, that doesn't make it better.
No, it does. It does. It does because it's just so more absurd.
No, it doesn't make it more absurd. It makes it more
Are you telling me
frightening.
you don't want to see like Biden be like, get off my
No,
plane?
I don't.
Just like it would
I
be
want
so
politicians
funny.
to be the politicians that they are. I don't think we should like look at a politician and be like, you know what? That behind the scenes, that politician is fucking Rambo.
Listen,
He
if
is
there's a
fucking
better,
Rambo. I know it.
if
He would
there's,
have to
if
be, or else how could he be the
Get away
American
from that
president?
water.
Like, fun fact, Donald Trump couldn't even read, but once he became president, the very second he became president, he became a master reader. Because that's
did,
how it works. As
did you
soon as you
did
get
you
the title,
John
President
F.
of the
Kennedy was a
United
speed
States, in
reader.
a movie,
That's
you can
yeah.
do fucking anything. And it's always
Trump
boring and
Trump
stupid.
actually used the theme from this movie during his like
Yes.
inauguration,
Yep.
and he basically thought the movie was real because he was saying like Harrison Ford did a hell of a good thing for America when he saved people off of that plane.
I
And
was probably
Harrison
being
Ford,
a little facetious there, but
maybe,
Now,
yeah.
I mean, it is very, very pro-American, but I was surprised there were a couple of lines in it that were extremely anti-American and raised very good points. I wrote one of them down. It's when Gary Oldman was talking to the president when
oh, I know the
Marshall had his
line.
hands all tied up, and he says, "You murdered 100,000 Iraqis to save a nickel on a gallon of gas, and you're going to lecture me about the rules of war? Don't!" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, geez, that's actually extremely valid." Like,
I'm a little
Except
disappointed you didn't
that
try that with
that
a Russian
that
accent.
that line should have been 90% of the lines in the movie
yeah,
because that would reflect reality. But instead, you get
yes.
one line like that just so they're like, "No, we're balanced." You get one line, and then the rest is just USA, USA, USA. Like,
Well, he
no,
also, I
this
mean,
was not a
he
movie. This was another propaganda machine.
My dad
We
doesn't
keep getting
negotiate with
these every now and then.
terrorists.
well, yeah, no, exactly. When he's talking to the daughter, and she says, "You're a murderer," and Gary Oldman was like, "Your father is a murderer as well. You think it's different because he wears a tuxedo and he does it with a smart bomb?"
My dad's the
Guy's
president
got a
of the
point.
United States. He can do anything, and it's fine.
He's a good
No,
guy.
bad movie. I wasn't cheering for anyone. I didn't even want him. Like the only thing I wanted him to do is I didn't like them pointing a gun at a little girl. I'm like, all right, kill this guy now. Go Harrison Ford. But literally, if they removed the daughter from this movie, I wouldn't have cared about anything. I wouldn't have wanted Harrison Ford to win. I probably would have been on the side of the fucking Kazakhstanis. Like it would. Yeah, this was not a good
So
movie.
let's consider if it wasn't Harrison Ford and go with one of the other actors that was considered for the role of President Marshall. We have Arnold Schwarzenegger, Keanu Reeves, Dennis Quaid, Tom Hanks, John Malkovich, or Tommy Lee Jones. Can you imagine John
No, it
Malkovich?
should have been
Get
Randy Quaid.
off my plane! Like Randy Quaid would have been interesting. Yeah.
Get off my
Well,
plane.
I think that's high time
This is
for
my plane.
a bit
Get off.
of
If we
movie
keep skipping all our
morsels.
segments, no, it's not
Well,
time for morsels.
Here's my
Which
this-
performance would you hold up?
When do we do movie morsels? Wouldn't that make all right?
Movie morsels is after setting aesthetic. It always is. Stop changing it.
All right.
All right. Which performance? I mean, Gary Oldman, I guess, because I didn't know it was Gary Oldman.
Yeah, it has to be Gary Oldman. Like Gary Oldman or Harris. Actually, you know what? Because you picked Gary Oldman, I'm gonna go with Dean Stockwell.
Does
Dean
he
Stockwell was
have
great.
more than 2 lines in this movie?
Yeah, dude, this whole thing
yeah.
is trying to get like the 25th Amendment passed so that like they don't
Yeah.
free Raddick and they just basically
is
take out Air Force
actually happened
One.
when
Yeah.
Kennedy was killed. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
That is-
a
that
whole
is-
thing
that
with
has
his
grounds in
character.
reality.
He was the
I
actual
would say-
politician.
I would say the Russian pilot, just for the fact that when he's trying to take Air Force One back off the ground again, and he's trying to take it up over that
He's sweating.
41 star lifter, he goes, and his top teeth are just, and he's freaking out, and he reminds me a lot of Ted Stryker when Ted Stryker was landing the airplane in Airplane,
Yeah.
and the sweat is
There's
pouring
buckets
off
of
like he
sweat
just got
coming.
out of a pool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful,
pretty funny.
beautiful acting. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Agreed. Setting aesthetic. No, just CGI is awful. And
It was
the
all practical
planes look like
effects,
marionettes. Right.
The
Murphy
actor
loves
you're
the
talking.
setting aesthetic.
I didn't say I love the setting aesthetic. I fucking go on about one scene that I was like, this was cool, and apparently it was practical, which makes it cooler to me. And apparently I'm getting on my knees and blowing the set designer and the fucking cinematographer because I think this movie's
That's the
fantastic.
rumor.
All of a sudden,
That's the rumor.
Is that what you take? Is that what you took from that? Is that what you picked up from my one scene that I tried to show a hold up?
You basically said that every single effect in this movie was for real.
No,
And that every time
I did not.
Every time a machine gun was
Yeah,
shot
you
at
did.
somebody,
You're putting
they
words
actually
in
died
my
on
mouth.
Play
screen.
back the tape. Play back the tape.
You're putting
we have
words
to
in my
stop the
mouth. I
recording
literally
first.
said that most of the jet scenes in this film were practical. Anyway, the actor you're speaking of, his name was Elia Baskin, and he plays a lot of popular like Russian characters.
Oh yeah, he does.
And
All right,
yeah,
now
the
it's
setting
time
and
for
aesthetic.
morsels.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. Yeah, the setting and aesthetic's all right, but yeah, movie morsels. So yeah, the reason why I was jumping into it is because on top of Mike's note about all the other, people like Malkovich and Schwarzenegger, it was originally Kevin
Malkovich
Costner.
would have been so weird.
Kevin Costner was originally the one that was considered for the role of President James Marshall, but he was committed to The Postman from '97, and he suggested Harrison Ford for the part. Gene Hackman was considered for the role of President James Marshall, but he turned down the part because he considered the script lousy.
He said, "Can I play it Polish?"
I mean, maybe that's why he turned it down too. John Malkovich was considered to play President James Marshall in this film, but he had worked with Wolfgang Peterson before on In the Line
Get
of Fire.
off my plane. Yeah, see, I would like this movie if it was John Malkovich. Now I'm convinced. There was one way to save this movie, and they didn't take that route.
But yeah, he worked with Wolfgang Peterson before in Line of Fire, in which he played Clint Eastwood's nemesis Mitch Leary, who goes by the alias John Booth, James Carney, etc. But he turned it down so he could be in Con Air. So that's why he turned down this plane movie to be in another plane movie.
Almost picked that one too.
A far better plane movie, but
yeah, why didn't you pick that one?
Air Force One has a cheesy, like it's got a certain aesthetic to it. It really does. Con Air is a better film for sure, but that's like picking Apocalypse Now versus Hamburger Hill for a Vietnam movie.
True
Apocalypse
enough.
Now is a better
all
movie.
The hits here.
Hamburger Hill is a better Vietnam movie. So you gotta.
Apples and mangoes. Many of the action sequences in the film were shot in a decommissioned Boeing 747, which was modified to resemble Air Force One. The crew used practical effects and sets to create the intense and suspenseful moments on board the aircraft. The movie features a stellar, supporting cast, including Glenn Close as Vice President Catherine Bennett. That was meant to be deleted. Wolfgang Peterson's commentary says that the original script explained that Secret Service agent Gibbs had been a CIA spook and had lost status due to the ending of the Cold War. He was angry at the U.S. government and knew the terrorists from his CIA days in the novel. It was explained that Gibbs was a former USSR sleeper agent. Ultimately, it took too long to reveal any of this as a backstory, so it was omitted from the script. Which explains all of Gibbs' motivation, and I kind of wish they put it in, because that was one of the things I'm like, why is this guy doing any of this? What's his motivation?
Especially right to the end when all the Terrys had been killed and he was literally still there and could have just been rescued with the president and gone on to continue like doing whatever it was that he wanted to do. But instead he's like, nope, I'm going to shoot William H. Macy and show myself as the traitor when there are literally only 3 of us left and nobody knows that I'm a traitor.
It was
it
was baffling.
They made this movie. I can't believe after 45 actors turned it down, telling them it was a shit script, they're like, you know what, let's just make it anyway. It's like, those 45 actors don't know shit. What do they know about scripts?
Well, the film director film director Wolfgang Peterson worked closely with the U.S. Air Force to accurately depict the protocols and procedures on board Air Force One. Initially, Wolfgang Peterson was denied access to the real-life Air Force One. However, a telephone call from Harrison Ford to the White House soon changed that. This collaboration helped lend an air of authenticity to the film.
Air Force One security procedure 1. If there's a maniac with a gun loose on the plane, do not, whatever you do, do not catch them. Do not apprehend them. Let them run around your airplane forever and sabotage it. And let them release fuel. Let them do whatever they got to do because it's safer that way.
But I mean, the team of Russians, there was what, 8 guys, whatever. You're on board Air Force One that has like 20 to 30 Secret Service agents that are carrying sidearms. Secret Service guys are like previous special forces or high-ranking police officers. Like
Hey, we're looking for hackers. We've been over this.
Trained.
No. Secret Service guys are there to stop hacking.
Not the ones that are right next to the president, though.
Well, them too. It's surprising. Yeah, they were looking for people to hack the president. People hacking the plane, that doesn't bother them. It's hacking the internet. That's the problem. Okay. And, honestly, any American president could take out 500 Russian goons anyway, because USA. That's why.
Well, I don't know if they're technically Russians. I think they're supposed to technically Kazakhstan, but
yeah, well, whatever.
At least
Soviet at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Ex-USSR.
They want the Soviet Union back.
Gary Oldman's performance earned him the nickname Scary Gary. During production, however, he did not stay in character between the scenes, Wolfgang Peterson calling the filming experience Air Force fun because of how comedic and genial Oldman and Harrison Ford would be off-screen. He also said that Oldman would suddenly return to the menacing film persona instantly. Ford has since named Oldman as his favorite on-screen nemesis. This is fun. Randy Newman was originally hired to provide the film's score. However,
that would have been better.
Wolfgang Peterson felt it was too serious to the point of being unintentionally funny. So they got Jerry Goldsmith was hired at the last minute and had 12 days to come up with an alternative score. Newman later recycled some of his rejected score for Toy Story 3 in 2010.
How? Which is a way better movie than this. Toy Story 3 is way, way better than this movie.
Goldsmith was apparently like over-directed on how he would do the score and went on record later as saying like, I never ever want to be brought in to redo a score for the rest of my career. He would never do it because he was so unimpressed with this. But I'll say, like, I don't know, I really enjoyed the main title theme to this film. I thought the score was perfect. It sounded almost like Basil Polidorus music. Like he did Starship Troopers, Flight of the Intruder. He's done a few like Basil Polidorus, has done a few like really, high-ranking military-style themes where it's trumpets and it's meant to be like Viva America, Viva the military, rah rah rah. But like it gets the point across. It's well done for what it's trying to do, I thought.
Yeah. And for the final movie morsel for this one, after successfully rescuing the president, the MC-130 pilot says Liberty 24 is changing call signs. Liberty 24 is now Air Force One. Technically, any Air Force aircraft carrying the president is Air Force One. The helicopter the president flies in is Marine One. Because the Marine Corps is in charge of the aircraft. If the president flies on a Navy aircraft, it would be Navy One.
Who won?
Since the Air Force maintains the president's plane, it's designated Air Force One. If the president is a civilian aircraft, its call sign would be Executive One.
And
it's an executive decision, which is a better movie than this movie.
The president is flying in an Air Force aircraft. It's called Air Force Two. Fun fact. Yeah.
Cinematography by Michael Ballhaus. Anyway, edited by Richard Francis Bruce. Music by Jerry Goldsmith. Release date of July 25th, 1997. Running time of 124 minutes. A budget of $85 million. And with a box office of $315.2 million. This is
Gosh, Davan,
big bank.
It's almost like people liked this movie or something.
It's a lot of people like this movie globally.
I'm sure there's a lot of Americans who love this movie.
It was like this was one of the biggest action films to come out that year, almost.
It's a bad movie. One of the worst I've seen. Really is. There was nothing here redeemable.
This was 97, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was it 90s?
Better movie. This movie had been made 50 times before this.
Wow, they made $315 million during the year of Titanic. That's
newsflash. Titanic, bad movie as well.
Oh,
bad movies make money all the time.
Come on.
One's called Avatar. Made a shit ton of money.
Okay, yeah, Avatar.
The most recycled plot ever, and
right, it's just Dances with Wolves, but with blue.
Yeah, exactly. And no stands with a fist. Yeah, it is. It's an awful movie. This is an awful movie. Let's move on. Rewatchability.
Oh,
no.
Very low. Very low.
No.
Yeah. Once you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times.
Yes. And it's.
I felt like I saw it 1,000 times halfway through.
I watched this movie once when I was like, how old was I in 7? I would have been 9. I would have been 9 in 97. No, I would have been.
I was 12.
No,
you wouldn't have been 9. You would have been like 11.
No, I would have been.
10,
yeah, I would have been 11. Yeah, sorry, my math is backwards. I would have been 11. I was born in 86, so yeah, I would have been 11. So I was 11 in 97. I saw this movie that once. And I was like, you know what? I vaguely recall the events of that film. And I watched this film and I was like, no, I don't vaguely. I recall every moment of that film to a T.
Not because they were good and memorable, just because they're obvious and basic.
I don't know. They were pretty good and memorable at the time. I was like, wow, that was a pretty awesome movie. I thought it was like neat. And that's how and I'm not going to lie, I probably carried that mental image of what American presidents were or should have been for probably far longer than I should have.
You and Cousin Dave both.
So yeah, you know, you know what? I think I could rewatch this film again. It wasn't the worst. I had fun watching it.
I still could. I could still definitely rewatch it, but like it's not a film that I would ever voluntarily go back and be like, you know what I want to watch again? Is Air Force One. But if I met somebody who had never seen it, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, let's check it out. Like I'd watch it again, but not just by voluntary choice. No.
You'll graciously volunteer us all to watch it, though.
That's right. Because you hadn't seen it, had you? That's what I'm saying.
You didn't know that. This was a punishment pick. Does it hold up? No, it doesn't hold up.
No, not at
all. It held up as well as Air Force One. It turned into Lego. This was a Lego disaster of a movie.
Yes, it does hold up.
You're a liar, Murphy.
I'm
that
not
was
a
that
liar.
that is a controversy pick.
That is not
This
a
is
controversy
ridiculous.
pick. This movie holds up as a 97 action film. This I would say almost goes up there with Jurassic Park.
Now I know you're just being a controversial bastard.
Okay, maybe I'm joking about the Jurassic Park line, but I still think it's a great action film, and it's formative, and it was one that I remember from my youth. I think this film holds up.
So I wouldn't say that the film holds up, but there is another quote that I did write down because I was like, is this Putin? Is Putin saying this right now? When Gary Oldman says, when Mother Russia becomes one great nation again, when the capitalists are dragged from the Kremlin and shot in the street, when our enemies run and hide in fear at the mention of our name, and America begs our forgiveness. On that great day of deliverance. You will know what I want. And I'm like,
I mean,
oh,
the
yeah, no.
capitalists, yeah, the
Someone could say
capitalists
that
got
right
what's
now.
coming, or will get what's coming to them and deserve it, man. The greed is not a virtue,
Right.
not a good one. Like the whole capitalism versus communism argument is crazy because they're both shitty ideas.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
We
I
need
mean,
the Star Trek
capitalism is
melding of the
literally
two,
the worst type of government, except for
or all the
all of the other
others.
ones.
You're right there, Winston. And I don't even know if that's true, actually. It seemed like that for a while, but the whole fact that there's a 1% that exists, capitalism failed quite royally.
Well, humanity failed, really, right? Like
No,
greed
no.
failed. No matter what
No.
governmental situation you've got going on, human greed will always win.
It'll lose. It'll
Well,
lose in
yeah,
the end.
yeah.
Star Trek's gonna happen. It'll just
Well, I say we go from the American capitalist society to the Japanese capitalist society.
Japanese imperialist
and
society.
Theater 3. Imperialist society. Yeah, that's the more correct term. Theater 3.
All right. Well, in Theater 3, what do we have here? We have